Hello YouTube, this is Morgan Airspeed Prime here at my next Legend of Korra Book 3 Change episode commentary. This one's going to be for K309, the Stakeout, episode 9 of Book 3 Change. To sync up your copy of the episode with this commentary track, what you need to do is have your episode paused and ready to press play, basically at the start of the episode, including the intro. So obviously Kyoshi is the first thing you'll see, and it has that whole earth, fire, air, water bit. So have that ready to go. I'm going to stop speaking in a minute, and then when I start speaking again after a pause, that's when you hit play. So I'm going to stop speaking now. Press play on your copy of the episode when I come back after the pause. So, okay, here we are with the Stakeout, K309. Overall, I think this is a pretty solid episode. I really like this one in Book 3 Change. Definitely one of my favorites. I think it's definitely memorable because it's like the first time Korra and Zahir speak. That's a very memorable scene in the entire season. Just to hear him, finally reveal something about the Red Lotus. We've been waiting so long for it, and in many ways that becomes a little bit of a problem with the series in that, like, we're on episode 9 now, there's only like a couple left in the season, and we're only now starting to really get to know anything about this group. That may be a bit of the problem, that they dealt with so many little stories up to now, that they maybe don't have enough time to address the full extent of the main story. But there's a lot of really interesting stuff happening in this episode. It starts off with obviously this investigation, trying to look for Ai Wei, who's just escaped, and eventually they encounter, the rest of the Red Lotus, and obviously Korra's captured at the end of the episode. But before that, there's still a lot of other stuff to happen. We see the mugshots, and it's interesting here. Like, a lot of people questioned when this episode first came out, like, wait, how do they all have mugshots? Like, when were they, like, all arrested? But, like, Korra is obviously from the first episode. She was arrested by Lin. Everyone was also arrested, all of Team Avatar basically, except Korra was also arrested in When Extremes Meet by Tarlok. Mako was arrested in Book 2, and obviously he was put in jail. And so there are points in the series where all members of Team Avatar were arrested at some point or another. So that's interesting. But yeah, obviously we get to see Misty Palm's Oasis in this episode as well. And here's the kind of resolution for a little thing from the end of the last episode, when Sue went behind Lin's back and sent Korra out to search for Ai Wei. But that's not much of a big deal. They don't make it out like it's gonna like really tear their newly found relationship apart. It's just like, okay, Lin's gonna go off searching for them after this decision. But yeah, it's just interesting. I like that Korra's on Naga. The rest of them are in the Jeep. Just gives Naga something to do. She doesn't get up to a lot in Book 3 and 4, but she does get some nice moments in Book 3, just like this. Just like, hey, look, I did something good. Give me a treat. No treat. What? And then the slap of the tail to the face. Really nice moment. There we go, Misty Palm's Oasis. Let me see the way they're going to split up. They're going to keep Korra back because she's recognizable basically across the world as the Avatar. Everyone knows what she looks like. So they'll keep her back and just the two of them go in undercover. And Bolin decides that the best way to do that is with these yellow rain ponchos. War was the only woman I loved. I like the backstory it gives here, it's just really fun. And then Mako with an even cooler line. What's your backstory? I'm a cop, I don't have a backstory. That's even more amazing, just like the kind of man with no name type thing. But yeah, we see some spirits in the Misty Palms Oasis, which makes sense because it's a pretty interesting place. So it is an oasis. You've got the giant bit of like ice in the middle of this desert, and it seems to reform every so often, and it never gets cold. So it's just like spiritual ice that just keeps coming back. Like, because obviously the places around there use it to make basically the cups that they use for the drinks, which is why the drinks are so famous. And if they do that enough, obviously the ice would just go away, but it reforms obviously, so that's interesting. I weigh the truth here, known for calling people liars. And again, you see the tattoo in that guy's arm. That's like similar to the tattoo that Gazan has. Like, I feel that there was a story there. There was something, a connection that they were going to make between the tattoos and some place in the Earth Kingdom. That like people that have these tattoos come from this place, but they just didn't get a chance to do it. Like, I really want to know what Gazan's backstory is, just with the lava bending, the tattoos, and stuff like that. Jabez Grove. And I do like that they kind of make a little bit of a mystery here, that they look at the map and they don't know where it is, it's nowhere on the map. And then the spirits drop down and they're like, hey, this place is in the spirit world, Avatar. And they're like, get away, bugs. But they were trying to tell her that it's a place in the spirit world. It's a really cool idea. This is just it's these type of scenes that I wish we'd seen more of in book 3 and 4. Like, they see spirits all around the place and they just try and interact with them, and there's little issues like that. Like, Bolin sees a cute one, tries to pet it, and it bites his finger. But we don't get much of that. And then there's this setup here with these kind of bounty hunter guys that you think are like trying to know that it's Mako and Bolin, but in fact it's just that they recognize Bolin from the Nuktuk movers and are a big fan of his, so they try and get his autograph. And this leads them to actually find Aiwei for the first time. And yeah, very casual hiding from Aiwei here, just like walking around eating noodles, and Mako and Bolin just encounter him. I do like that the episode kind of really lives up to the title, the Stakeout, and they do devote a decent part of the episode to just staking him out. It's not that they immediately jump into action. Korra style, bust the door down, but Mako's just like, no, you gotta stake him out, he could lead us to them. And it's a change from Korra of like book 1 and even Korra book 2, that she realizes that Mako's the better one to deal with these sort of situations, that they can trust him to come up with the most kind of balanced idea. That it's never going to be an over-the-top idea that's just never going to work. It's always logical and makes sense. But yeah, they try and book a hotel room and it doesn't work because they're too young and the owner doesn't like kids. And then here's the funny reveal. Nuktuk fans. And yeah, like O'Brien confirmed, this isn't meant to be some sort of like an insult to like fans of Avatar or Korra. They just tried to make some fun characters and like do that whole thing of like they look like bounty hunters but they're actually just fans. It's just a coincidence that it ends up kind of looking like the most hardcore core of our fandom at conventions and stuff like that. And then she lets them stay, of course. He just wants the one specific room, and it happens to be like the smallest room in the entire place. And I love how cramped it is. Just like Naga takes up like half of the room on her own, and then the rest of them are just barely have any space to do anything. Aiwei's very suspicious. He's like checking to make sure no one's around, because obviously he's going to meditate into the spirit world to meet Zahir there, which is such a cool idea that they meet in the spirit world. Shows you how spiritual the people at the Red Lotus are. And then we get some Pai Sho scenes here. Like I really thought that at some point they were going to like release the rules to this game, because they devote a decent amount of time in the episode to showing Asami and Bolin play Paisho. And then here's another thing, like we say that Asami's arc with her father only is in book 1 and 4, but she actually mentions Hiroshi in book 2 and 3, even though we don't see Hiroshi there. She mentions that her father taught her here, he's a genius, and then in book 2 she mentioned Hiroshi with regards to, like, she wouldn't go to see Mako in prison because it would remind her too much of her father. And we see the contrast in styles, which I suppose is trying to reference the contrast in styles of Korra and Mako with regards to finding Aiwei, that, Asami thinks it's just a slow strategic game, while Bolin just thinks it's fast-paced. And then the rule book here, the thing that Bolin's going to read out here is going to show, kind of link into the theme of the episode. Strategy and chance. And that line just there, just like, oh, we're never going to get a full rule set for this game. Core, you need to standardize the Paisho rules. And again, like, Korra has to listen to Mako here because he better understands the situation. Korra's just like, I'll beat him up. To beat your opponent, you first have to know your opponent. That's kind of what this whole Paisho thing was kind of leading up to. That, Korra can't beat Zahir until she knows something about him, and so it kind of sets up the idea of, like, her learning about the Red Lotus while she's there in Saibai's Grove. And also, I suppose, sets up book 4 as well, because she can't really fully defeat Kuvira and understand her unless she learns about Kuvira. And so that scene towards the end of book 4 where Korra, like, learns about Kuvira's past and kind of understands her own suffering and stuff like that, allows her to kind of win in the end. But yeah, it's definitely an interesting choice, just to use Paisho as just devote like a good 2-3 minutes of the episode to Paisho, and really only have it there to get that line across from the rulebook. But it works. I like seeing Paisho. It's an important thing. But again, I really wish they'd just release a version of that game where you can actually play it properly. I get they tried, and they kind of said that the official rules are on the Paisho game on Nick.com, but I really don't think that's how the game is actually played. And then Korra eventually just decides, like, oh, we gotta go over there, nothing's happening. And ultimately, if they just went with Mako's idea, they'd just be waiting forever. And Aiwei would return from the meeting, she'd never meet Zahir, but they'd have Aiwei. This way, Korra actually locates Zahir, but kind of ends up getting herself captured. And I like that Korra realizes that the spirits were there for a reason earlier on. She actually remembers that. Kind of shows again that she's connecting a lot more things than she was before. And that she could just do the same. She can just meditate in the spirit world. I like that we get to see the spirit world. It's always great to see. Saibai's Grove. There it is. And I really wonder why they chose this specific place in the spirit world to name Saibai's Grove after the founder of the Red Lotus, Saibao, who, again, like, this book would have been so interesting if we actually got to meet Saibao. And there's the full reveal, like, the full extent of what Aiwei was doing for the Red Lotus. And it really shows how cruel Zahir is, and just like, where does he toss Aiwei now? He transports him into the Fog of Lost Souls, and basically the implication is that Aiwei is dead now, because he's lost in that Fog of Lost Souls. Unless Korra goes in at some point after this and gets him out, or someone else does, his body just dies wherever it's left after the aftermath of this episode. And that's pretty crazy, and now the big confrontation we've kind of been waiting a long time for. but it's kind of worth the wait, even though it means we don't get much else on them. And I kind of like that he does this. Ultimately, it's a plan to keep Korra there because he knows that she wants to know about why they're after her. And also, he points out the fact that we don't have her bending. Us fighting here is not going to do anything. And here we get that the Red Lotus is about to restore freedom to the world. Red Lotus, first time reveals of that. Even though, because of a mistake on Nick.com, we found out about the Red Lotus very early on in Book 3, without even knowing what it was. And that's interesting, like his opinion on the Ordered White Lotus. That they came out of hiding. They weren't a secret group anymore. They openly served the Avatar and nations and whatever and stuff like that. But I think that's kind of a problem with the series. We don't really learn a lot about the Ordered White Lotus. As I said earlier on in these commentaries, in some of the earlier ones, when was the last time in this season we saw the Ordered White Lotus? It was like episode 3 or something like that, maybe 2 even. Like, but back when maybe it was Zuko, back when he fought the Red Lotus, that was the last time we heard anything about the White Lotus. It's really interesting, but he has enough skill to, while being in the spirit world, move his body a little bit to get a message across to the other guys to tell them where Korra is, because if she followed Aiwei in, she's also there. And he brings up the whole Unalaq thing about the one closing the portals and how that was a bad idea. And it was all part of a plan founded by Unalaq, and just the idea that Unalaq was a member of the Red Lotus, and that originally the plan was for them to train Korra in bending. And imagine the potential that they could have somehow taught her all of these crazy bending techniques. Admittedly, you have to kind of be born with a lot of them, but the idea that they could teach her bending in a completely different way than the Ordered White Lotus. Pretty interesting implications here, and some of the stuff that's being revealed about just it adding to Unalaq's character, that he was a part of the Red Lotus. He ordered the Red Lotus attack, kidnapping of Korra, which basically led to what happened in Book 2 in more ways than one. All of these things just adding on to it, it's pretty amazing. Just when you look back on now in Book 2 and you realize that Unalaq knew to basically tell Korra about Tenzin and Tonraq's decision to keep her locked away, because he was the one who orchestrated the kidnap attempt in the first place. And then Unalaq just purposefully covered up his involvement in everything and just left them to stay in prison. And I also like just as well how Zahir kind of points out here that he had his own selfish goals. It was never part of the plan for him to become this dark avatar, but he did it anyway. And this is the one time in this whole book where we get to really see the difference in philosophies between the two characters. It's never really addressed again. He brings up good points to Korra about how, you've experienced how moronic a lot of the world leaders have been so far. You must disagree with them. But the idea to Korra of actually going ahead and killing them just because they've made bad decisions is just completely out of line to her. That they need to purposefully tear down the entire world. And again, just the idea of chaos, that is a good thing to Zahir, but Korra realizes that's not the case. And then this as well, Guru Lahima, I feel like they almost should have shown a little bit of Guru Lahima as well, more than just making have these little like ideals and these poetry and stuff like that that Zahir bases stuff off, that he's fundamentally kind of almost promoting this idea that the Red Lotus based their ideals off with some of his poetry. It's interesting, but it's just not explored to the extent that I maybe want it to be. And then here's the rivalries in play, just Mako versus Minghua, amazing move by Mako here, and Bolin versus Gazan setting up the rivalries, but this time they're defeated without much trouble at all. Brilliant animation in this scene, just as the meteorites go into the water, and you can kind of see little bits of evaporation happening, the heat, and the stuff like that. It's a really cool scene. Then Minghwa's waterbending here, and just the way they keep the background of that, the bending has had an impact on the environment there, with the magma that Gazan's just used. But yeah, Mako and Bolin have just been captured. Asami escaping with Korra, and they're captured. And you think Gazan has caught up with them because earthbending, but we later find out that it is in fact the Earth Queen who's captured Korra. And that's an interesting idea, just that he feels that because he was given airbending, he was one of the ones specifically chosen to be an airbender, that he was destined to destroy the kind of oppressive governments. And the big question, what are you going to do with me? You'll soon enough. And again, the fact that he didn't answer this one, it creates this mystery that like there's a very specific reason why they want Korra. Like they want to take the power of the Avatar away from her and do something else. But when it turns out to just be, oh, we want to kill you in the Avatar state to get rid of you for good, it's like that was a kind of not great tease. But yeah, it's just crazy to see how tied up Korra is just to stop all of her bending, and then the reveal that it was the Earth Queen, and you're like, oh, she's still in the book. We haven't seen her for so long, since like episode 4. And it's interesting that they introduced the Earth Queen back. Ultimately, it's primarily to get the scene where Zahir can kill the Earth Queen, which is an amazing scene next episode. But pretty crazy way to end the episode, just with all of Team Avatar captured. 2 of them by one group, 2 of them by another group, and the setup at the end of the episode is that they're all going to kind of come together next episode. So pretty crazy, but yeah, very, very solid episode. I think it's the episode where you learn the most about the Red Lotus through that awesome Zahir and Korra scene. If only we had a few more scenes like that where Zahir and Korra actually talked, and we really got into the bigger ideals of the Red Lotus, like why the other characters, why Gazan, Pali, Minghua, why they joined up to this group, and they support the ideals of the Red Lotus too. But we end up not getting that. It's a big negative with the book, but the Stakeout K309 is an amazing episode. So thanks for listening to this commentary, and bye.